been a long time coming. Thank you for handling it. Okay, so if we can move on to item 7 on the agenda. This we haven't discussed before, to my recollection, but to my recollection, this would be faulty, but we have not reviewed the ethics code. Not talking about the campaign or not the public financing codes, but the ethics code for city employees, at least since I've been on the board. I think going on 10 years, I was appointed by, maybe more, I was appointed by Mayor Gonzalez. And that isn't necessarily a bad thing, but, oh, look at that, we're on. But I think that what has sparked my interest in at least talking about whether we should do something to review it, not how to review it, just whether to, is that I teach ethics, public ethics, to people around the state, to public officials, through the New Mexico State University, it's called the EDGE program, and taught quite a few classes. And in the course of that, I've come across quite a few ethics or codes of conduct from counties in particular, but also a few cities. And they're a good deal longer. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing that ours isn't long. I'm not suggesting it just needs to be lengthened. But there's definitions and so on that I see in these other codes that I think we ought to, I'm suggesting that we review our code of conduct to see if there's anything we're missing. The gaps that we haven't addressed that the other communities are there possibly terms that are still vague, even though we do have a definition section, or not? Maybe we're fine. But I'd like to suggest, without getting into any specifics, since we're not taking action in terms of the actual any review or changes today, but what I would like to suggest is that we have a subcommittee take a look at the city's ethics code and maybe compare it to some of these other ones that I actually have in my files from around the state, although those are mostly county ones, but the issues are quite similar, to see if there's any improvements that might be needed, or if we're just fine with it. So I'm not making any specific suggestions, just the idea of looking at it itself. We could meet as without violating the Open Meetings Act, we could meet as a subcommittee, if we're not a majority of the board, to discuss these things. And want to see how you feel about it. Oh, and let me just offer this. I just made a list. Well, we have item 7. Well, there's a tab that says 1.7, and that is the ethics code for the city. And unlike the campaign codes and the public financing code, this provides explanations and rules regarding ethical conduct. And anything we haven't covered in the code means we can't act on it. And that doesn't mean nobody can act on it. I mean, there is the Governmental Conduct Act. The State Ethics Commission does provide guidance on the Governmental Conduct Act and as it applies to any public official in the state. But they're more limited in how they can enforce that vis-a-vis local governments. They can enforce it against, involving when the issues involve state officials or state employees, but they can't really take action under the Governmental Conduct Act when it involves local government officials. So what that leaves is, in terms of, since we can't rely on the Ethics Commission because they don't have the authority, there are some special circumstances. If there's a criminal conduct, the Attorney General or the District Attorney can act, but those are pretty extreme cases usually, and they're not going to take them unless they're pretty severe consequences. And of course, there's administrative rules, administrative proceedings that can be taken when people violate the code. And that could be a disciplinary matter, so that's possible. If there's special categories like sexual harassment, that can be dealt with by the Human Rights Commission for local government. It's there. It seems to me there could be a gap between what is currently enforceable by any of those entities and what we have the ability to enforce if we have it in our code. Now, what we could do would be to recommend to the city council, correct me if I'm wrong, Marcos, we could recommend to the city council the adoption of amendments to their ordinance. So we don't ourselves write the rules, but we could provide as detailed as we wish suggestions to the city council, which I think they would look at seriously. I think they would take them seriously. And let me just list some of the rules that I think we currently do address. Whether or not they're adequately addressed is another issue. The rules currently 1.7 in the code defines conflicts of interest. It's all in your packet. Disclosures that are possible, prohibition on gifts, which is actually not in the Governmental Conduct Act. It's in the Gifts Act, but that only applies to state employees. It doesn't even apply to local government. Improper transactions of various kinds, private representation of interests, using, your public authority or time, confidential information, defining that, misusing resources, nepotism. Oddly, there's a nepotism statute. This really has struck me ever since I taught this. There's a nepotism statute in the state laws that does apply, I'm pretty sure, to municipals. It says counties, but that's because it goes back to 1925. It's never been amended since then. And it says counties, but there's an argument that at that time, that meant cities too. Go figure. There's financial dealings with subordinates. There's improper, oh, by the way, the nepotism statute is so up to date that it exempts anybody who's making less than $600 a year. Okay, so, it tells you about how recent it is. Financial dealings with subordinates, improper, that's in the Governmental Conduct Act. Improper political activity, that's in that GCA. Patronage, honoraria, bullying, retaliation and whistleblowing, disclosures of conflicts of interest, and then the fact that the city council is supposed to, according to its own revisions, is supposed to annually review this. And Marcos, do you know, or Carolyn, do you know if this has been done, that they actually reviewed this annually?
Yes, I gave the ethics presentation this year to the governing body and last year.
When was that? Do you know?
It was about a month ago.
Oh, about a month ago. Okay. So I should have asked. So have they made any changes or?
They have not, but on your earlier point, under the powers and duties of the ECRB, it specifically states that the board shall periodically review and recommend changes to the code of ethics.
That's right. I was going to say that. Thank you. So, okay. So if they didn't, especially if they didn't make any changes, then I think we can, in good conscience, review this and decide if we want to recommend any. And especially since I don't think that it's been amended for quite some time. If I'm not mistaken, it's gone on for quite a while, and things have changed in those rules.
The most recent edits to the code of ethics were in 2016 and only to a small subset. Workplace bullying section is only by governing body members. So there's nothing else between employees. So that's an example.
Okay. Yeah. So I think, given what I've seen from other local governments around the state, every once in a while, the question comes up that we can't deal with. So I I'd like to get your feedback. I mean, what do you think about the idea of making this review? There's no rush. We could just do it anytime over the coming months. And then if we feel something to present.
Mr. Chair, yeah, I think it's a great idea. It's part of our, as Marco said, it's part of our charge along with periodically reviewing their I think probably it's a good idea to start here and then after the election, see if there are issues raised.
Mr. Chair, other members, it says in enforcement 1.79E that the governing body may by separate or ordinance establish an office of Inspector General. And I do not know, and I'm just asking, is there an ordinance establishing an office of Inspector General? And does that office have any jurisdiction over the Code of Ethics already?
To answer your question, there is no ordinance establishing the Office of Inspector General yet, and so they don't have this jurisdiction also yet. But that could be a recommendation that maybe this board wants to consider.
Because I know at one time there was discussion of, and then the second thing is there's no procedures set out in this code of ethics at all for how a person would file a complaint. So I guess would they just follow our committee's rules of procedure? I mean, it seems like that is the answer, but it's not really spelled out.
That's under 6-16.3
Oh.
complaints, which is the same procedure, but
Yeah.
it specifically makes reference to the Code
it
of
does.
Ethics.
So then the procedures are already set out.
Yeah, the procedures, our procedures rules apply to all of our
Okay.
ordinances that we.
Yeah, I did think it was interesting how the workplace bullying was only by governing body members to employees,
Mhm.
not employees.
That's the kind of thing I'm
Yeah.
suggesting we take a look.
Not at this time, but this thorough input right now. It hasn't been looked at since 2016 is probably the time to do it.
And I think part of the reason you haven't looked at it is nobody ever files any complaints on it. Maybe a reason for that. Solomon, you're brand new here, do you? Okay, well, so is there a motion to appoint a subcommittee? Does that sound like the appropriate way to go?
I'll move to appoint a subcommittee to review the Code of Ethics.
Or a second?
Second,
Okay, so moved by Commissioner Board Member Brennan and seconded by Board Member Amer. Any discussion? Okay. Then I will call for a vote. Let's do a roll call on that.
Member Amer,
Aye.
Member Brennan.
Aye.
Member Miller. Member Sullivan. Chair Biederman.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Sorry. Thought I was going to get through this without coughing. The next step is the harder one, getting the committee. I'll volunteer to chair. We can't do more than 3 since we can't see if we otherwise, well, we could, we just have to have open meetings if we wanted to do that. So assuming we're going to go with 3, I'll volunteer to be on it and chair it. Who else, anybody want to volunteer?
I'll volunteer.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Volunteer.
I was hoping you would. Thank you. Okay, so any objection to having that committee of three? Okay. So since we're a minority of the board, not forming a majority, so we do, or not forming a quorum, so we do get to operate privately. We don't have to give notice of the meetings or make them public. We could, and we don't have to. And what we do then is we could have several meetings as needed to get through this list. And I will offer to provide several codes from other parts of the other local governments in the state that I've encountered, and share them with you. And that could be a kind of a guide. And you'll see there's quite a bit of difference. Again, it's not saying we're right, they're right and we're wrong, but it gives us other ideas to work with. Some of them I think are really too long. They're very long. And some of them, just so you know, some of them actually, when you're looking at them, some of them actually reproduce sections of the Governmental Conduct Act and then just apply it through their county ordinance. So that may not be what we want to do. We may just want to look at what's relevant to a city employee and not worry about the state. But there's not that many differences, actually.
Mr. Chair, for those of us who are curious, can you tell us what county or city examples you're looking at, just that we might check out?
Okay, sure. And let me just tell you how I get these. When I teach these classes, the New Mexico State University program, outreach program that I work through, provides certificates from the university. And the certificates require that people take 9 classes, just three-hour FaceTime classes, followed by a mini portfolio where people have to provide an essay with documentation that illustrates the points they're making in their essay. And it's in that documentation that many people provide the codes of conduct for their counties. So some of the counties I've looked at that seem to be, they're different. They all seem to be homegrown. I don't see a template. But some of the counties I've looked at that, as I recall, just from memory, were pretty good. Were Valencia County, had a good one. Torrance County was good. And I'm trying to remember the others. I haven't looked at them for a while. But there were a number that were well written, and I will dig those out and before we meet and get them to you to look at.
Have you looked at Las Cruces and Albuquerque?
You know, we don't train Albuquerque through the program. They do their own training. Yeah. Las Cruces we do. And I don't recall having seen Doña County though. So not everybody takes those classes or goes for the certificate. So I don't recall seeing Doña County or Las Cruces, but I will look. So I could, what I could probably do, since I'm sure all of them are online, I'll make sure they are. But my homework will be to find some of the ones that seemed fairly well thought through and send you links to them if they have links, which I expect you all will. Okay. So I'll do that for all of you. It doesn't, I can send them the links to all of you, and then, but the committee members will then meet to discuss it. So just need a little time to put this together. So when would be a good time for you two to meet with me?
You be able to just circulate an email and then we can
Yeah.
do it that way.
Okay. I would
My
just
calendar's in front of me.
I would just look at it. Okay.
And that'll give you some time.
Yeah, I'm going to be leaving. I'll be here for a month, and then I'll be leaving for about 10 days in mid-June. My granddaughter's having a quinceañera in Washington, so I'll get to work on that. Circulate that. Okay, thank you. I'm glad we're pursuing this. I think it's in our wheelhouse to do this. Looking forward to it. Okay, let's see, what's the next item now? Change my pages. here. Okay. Public comment. Don't think we're going to get much of that, are we? Matters from the staff.
Chair Biederman, I have nothing.
I don't have anything. I think it's, but I will just opine that I think it's great that you're taking up the ethics code again.
And any other matters from the committee? Okay, well, this was a particularly brief meeting for our new member. Hope you don't get your hopes up that they're all going to be this short. This was just. Oh, and I believe, Geraldine, you said there may be another complaint coming in.
There may be, we received a call, but we haven't received any form of a complaint on our form that we would require.
Okay, so we will try to, if that does come in, we'll let me know and we'll try to schedule a meeting that's prompt. A little more prompt than the last one. Just got. Okay. All right, I don't have anything else. Thank you all for participating and motion to,
Yeah, motion to adjourn?
yeah, I was about to ask.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? We adjourn.